Hey guys, it's James, and I wanted to share with you my simple 401 calculator. I just want to take these inputs right here in the yellow and then be able to determine what our 401k portfolio would look like, and then how much, depending on how much we need per month in retirement, how far are we away from that with our current contribution numbers, and how much would we be taking home if we take into account taxes. We also are taking into account an annual inflation rate as well. So let's go ahead and start with the numbers here. Let's go ahead and clear this out and start with a few numbers, and then we will play around with it. And then if you stick to the end, I'll show you where you can get this calculator to play with it yourself. Let's say you are young and you're 20 years old and you just started with a company and you're looking to start your 401k. So let's say we assume that your principal balance is going to be zero. At 20 years old, let's say you're making $40,000 a year. Let's say working for Amazon, UPS, or FedEx, which is three of the largest employers in our area. And let's say your current contribution starting today would be about a 3% contribution with a 3% employer match. Let's say if you are looking long term, if you're looking to retire at about 60 to 70 years old, that means you are looking at a long investing period of about 40 years. So your expected market growth in that time period is going to be somewhere between 8 and 12%. If you want to be a little bit more conservative, let's go ahead and start with the 8%. We'll play around with these numbers depending on what type of outputs we get and to see if we can actually hit our retirement number. So our expected salary increase annually, let's say we expect to get about a 1 to 2% raise per year. So we'll go ahead and put that in there, and then try to determine how much do you need monthly to retire. And this is today's dollars. Let's say you wanted to live comfortably on about $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, or $5,000 a month in retirement. Let's go ahead and say about $3,000 a month. Everything's paid off, house is paid off, cars are paid off. Let's say you could live on $3,000 a month. How long do you expect to be drawing from your retirement portfolio? Let's go ahead and say about 25 years. What is the expected annual inflation rate? Let's say about 2%. And taxes paid on withdrawal. So what does that give us? So it looks like our retirement amount that we would need would be about $900,000. So what this is telling you is that to be able to withdraw $3,000 a month and live for 25 years on your $900,000, this number right here is telling you how long it would take with these contribution numbers. With these inputs at 20 years old, it would take you 48 years to get to that 900,000. So that doesn't make very much sense, does it? If you were 20 years old, add 48 to that, you would be 78. So that means you would be starting retirement at 78. So what does that mean? You have to increase your contribution. So let's say we want to retire around 60. Actually, that would have this would actually be 68. You would retire at 68. Let's say you wanted to retire about 8 years earlier. Well, what would that look like? Let's say we would have to up our contribution. If we upped it to 4%. If we upped it to 6%, we're only at 42 years to retirement, which is about 62. So it looks like we would have to be up about 7 to 8% contribution. Now the expected or the accepted percent contribution of your salary is anywhere from 10 to 15% of your salary. It does not matter what your employer matches. Try to match anywhere from 10 to 15% of your salary. So that's what it would look like if you were about 20 years old, you had nothing in your principal, your annual salary was $40,000, 8% contribution, 3% employer match, 8% expected market growth, and a 2% expected salary increase annually. And if you wanted to take a look at the numbers, and you wanted to change around, if you were comfortable with Google Sheets, and change around the this is our percent salary increase. So at 21, with our salary increase, we would be about 40,800 the next year with a 2% raise, and you continue on with that 2% raise, and 50 years later you'd be sitting at around $107,000. And if our inflation rate was 2% as well, it looks like your salary increase would be on par with inflation. And if you wanted to take a look at what your additions would look like if you're 8% with your 8% contribution, it comes down here and populates this with your 8%. It looks like you would be putting in this amount every single year. At 25, you would have put in 3,400. At 30, you would have put in 3,800, and then your employer would match 3%. Your total addition is your additions plus the employer's addition. And then if you had a market return of 8%, that is where this comes into play. Your market growth, your addition of 4,400 with that 8% would turn into 4,700, and then inflation adjusted a year from now with 2% inflation, your dollars would be worth about $4,600. So let's say you wanted to retire fairly early, or let's say you got started later in life. Let's say you were 40 and you had about only $25,000 in your 401k. You got started a little later, but your salary is a little bit higher. Let's say you have a college degree and you're about $75,000. Let's say your contribution was 10%, and let's say your employer matched a little bit more at 5%. You expected an 8% market return. Your average annual increase was 2%. You lived on $3,000 a month. How long do you expect to live for your retirement? Let's say it was 25 years, 2% annual inflation, 15% paid on taxes. It looks like with that $3,000 a month figure, you would need $900,000 to be able to live 25 years, as in our previous example. After a 15% taxes paid on withdrawal, you would have $2,500 a month to live on after withdrawing your taxes. And then years to retirement with these contribution numbers at 40, with your principal at 25,000, your annual salary, your percent contribution and match. It looks it would take you 25 years to retire from 40, so that would put you around 65 years old, which should be in line, or basically telling you that your contribution number is correct if you want to retire at 65. If you wanted to retire a little bit earlier, well, you would have to up your contribution 12%, 15%, and I think some 401k contribution or some 401k plans don't allow you to go over a certain percentage, so you might want to check that. So it looks like if you contributed 20% of your salary, you could retire in 20 years. So if you guys want to play around with these numbers, head over to Patreon and you can download this workbook. We also have our compound interest calculator where we compare two different ticker symbols with each other, the portfolio values and the amount of dividend income we can receive by changing the monthly addition numbers, changing the annual growth rate numbers, and if we were to reinvest or not reinvest dividends, and what our principal or initial deposit would be. So if you want to download this calculator, head over to Patreon, and thanks for watching.